As a public service to our late-night viewers, Channel 6 now presents a rebroadcast of tonight's 11 o'clock news.
Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Don Tollefson, Dave Roberts, and Jim Gardner.
Wednesday night, and the big story on Action News tonight is a series of new threats from terrorist groups in Lebanon. Extremist leaders say any retaliation for the killing of Lieutenant Colonel William Higgins might lead to suicide attacks on U.S. targets. And the Hezbollah says if Israel doesn't release Sheikh Obaid, an Israeli soldier being held in Lebanon might be killed. Meanwhile, the Sicipio family has been bolstered by hopeful news today, but officially an 11 a.m. deadline tomorrow for Joseph Sicipio's death is still in effect tonight. Action News reporter David Henry is now at the Sicipio house in Norristown. David, the attitude there, is it still optimistic, or has a sense of anxiety returned with the approach of tomorrow morning's deadline?
Well, Jim, Tom Sicipio says he is taking a positive outlook on the recent developments. He says that things look better than ever, and he is convinced that world pressure on Iran will save his brother Joe's life. Despite his renewed hope, though, it has been an exhausting and frustrating 3 days for Tom Sicipio.
How you doing? Thought you had the summer off.
After this one shot, we'll move back.
I guess we have the wrong tape up there, but Tom Sicipio says that he and the rest of the family can do nothing right now but sit and wait. He says he feels bad because Joe probably doesn't even know what's going on. He says that he and the other hostages are shown broadcasts. They can see television occasionally, but the news items are always deleted from those broadcasts. And he says the vigil will be kept throughout the night. He's finally getting some rest tonight. Last night he could barely sleep, and the night before he didn't sleep at all. But with that deadline looming just tomorrow morning, Tom Sicipio and the rest of the family are hoping for the best. They say they are convinced, though, that world pressure on Iran will bring this thing to an end and that all the hostages will be freed sometime soon. This is David Henry reporting live on the Action Cam from Norristown, Pennsylvania. Jim?
David, yesterday, Tom Sicipio had some contact by phone with government officials, perhaps members of the State Department. Has he been on the phone today talking with members of the United States government?
Well, he's been mostly on the phone talking to reporters and the like. He says that he knows that there are behind-the-scene negotiations going on, but he and the other hostage families are not privy to what is going on. Of course, the fear there by the State Department is that if they tell any of the hostage families that they've been making progress or that something is in the works, that word might leak out prematurely, thereby scuttling the whole deal. So they are keeping a very tight lid on it.
David, thank you. David Henry reporting live from the Sicipio household in Norristown. Now let us summarize the major developments of the hostage crisis today. The story is originating from 3 locations tonight: Lebanon, Israel, and Washington. In Lebanon, UN Undersecretary for Political Affairs Marek Goulding arrived in the border town of Nakura, his mission to confirm the fate of American hostage William Higgins. Goulding said he would also work to win the freedom of other hostages. And the story continues to unfold in Jerusalem, Israel. Defense Minister Yitzhak Rabin told Parliament today that Israel realized that the kidnap of Hezbollah leader Sheikh Obaid might endanger Western hostages, but that Israel decided to act to break a stalemate. Meanwhile, Israeli sources again claim today that William Higgins has been dead for some time, and that extremists staged a mock hanging for the cameras to convince the world it had killed Higgins in response to the abduction of Obaid. And of course, efforts continue in Washington to get the upper hand in this crisis. Advisors continue to come to the White House for a 3rd day of meetings with President Bush. Officials say a diplomatic solution is still the top option. President Bush issued his only public statement today during a photo opportunity with the foreign minister of Bahrain.
We have exercised every diplomatic channel that I can think of, some personal, some through our Secretary of State and our National Security Advisor. We've been in touch, I have personally, with many world leaders, and our State Department has fleshed this out, so we're leaving no stone unturned.
As President Bush spoke at the White House, 2 aircraft carriers and a battleship steamed toward Lebanon and Iran. American officials insist this is only a precautionary positioning of military force. Why does the military option pose such a dilemma for President Bush and his advisors? Certainly, millions of Americans would love to see the U.S. flex its muscle. Well, tonight, senior correspondent Mark Howard explores the problem.
When President Reagan sent the troops into Grenada in October of '83, American spirits soared as Fidel Castro's armed construction workers went packing. But Adam Garfinkel, a military expert with the Foreign Policy Research Institute, says Grenada was a piece of cake compared to Lebanon. He cites the death of 200 Marines at the hands of a terrorist bomber in October of '83. To be sure, American jets from the Coral Sea could bomb Beirut, but so what?
Let's not forget that the Lebanese are connoisseurs of violence after 14 years. And what 85 fighter aircraft on the Coral Sea could do would not impress them.
So we can't grab our hostages and a few bombs won't help. But what about a strike against Iran, the backer of the terrorists, still mourning the death of their Ayatollah? Bad timing, says Garfinkel.
We have now in Iran the ascendancy of a relatively moderate leadership under Ayatollah Islam Rafsanjani. The last thing we want to do is attack Iran militarily and aid the arguments of those who are against him.
The right course, Garfinkel says, is to show the fleet and keep our powder dry. So far, he says, President Bush has made only one mistake, canceling his trip west, allowing a few hundred terrorists to dictate his schedule.
They got him. They have the attention of the international media. They have the American government discombobulated. That's great kicks for a bunch of guys that can't even read, most of them. I mean, that's really something.
And finally, Adam Garfinkel agrees with others who say that Joe Sicipio will not be killed tomorrow. The terrorists want attention, and with Sicipio's help, they're getting it. I'm Mark Howard, Channel 6 Action News.
And so that is our story tonight. President Bush's people insist a diplomatic solution to the crisis is the priority. But a small armada of American military force is making its way to Lebanon. And here at home, the family of Joseph Sicipio in Norristown is engaged in yet another vigil. And while there is hope that Sicipio's life may be spared, there is still a death deadline of 11 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, Israel says it has no intention of releasing Sheikh Obaid unless it's to gain the freedom of Israeli and Western hostages being held in Lebanon. In other news tonight, there are fresh details about Felix Bloch's alleged transfer of secrets to a Soviet agent. ABC News has pieced together the who, where, and how. The network reports tonight that the agent was a man named Reno Glickman, who traveled on a Finnish passport. According to ABC, the two men met at a bar at this Parisian hotel. As French intelligence agents took pictures, they went into the dining room where Bloch placed a bag beneath the table. He left without it, but soon afterward, the Soviet agent Glickman left too with a bag intelligence sources believe contains secret information. The Senate tonight passed a $306 billion defense budget. And like the House version, it keeps alive the V-22 Osprey aircraft developed by Boeing in Delaware County. The Senate spending plan is much like President Bush's original proposal. It includes money for the stealth bomber and gives the president everything he wanted for Star Wars. But a conference committee still must work out many differences between the Senate and House versions of the defense budget. I've had worse landings on regular flights. That was the comment of one passenger on Piedmont Flight 1489 after an emergency landing today in Greensboro, North Carolina. Well, maybe so, but it certainly didn't look that way. The 737 landed with a jammed landing gear. The plane dragged its left wing down the runway, igniting a flash of flame and smoke. The plane finally came to a stop and the 100 passengers came sliding down the chutes. There was not one injury, and reports say the passengers stayed relatively calm throughout the entire ordeal. Piedmont officials say they won't know what caused the landing gear to jam for at least a couple of days. Still to come on Action News tonight, what mental health experts say about near-death experiences as Dave Roberts concludes his special report, Beyond and Back.
I'm Don Polec, and one thing you should never do is put your face in the hands of Hollywood makeup artists.
I'm Gary Papa in the city of London, where the Eagles fly by night.
Don Tollefson has Phillies shutout highlights on the right side, plus the late word from AccuWeather when Action News continues tonight.
Good morning.
Beg your pardon, sir.
Hartwell.
Yes, sir.
You're the one that chose AT&T for our international long distance.
Yes, sir.
Good show.
By offering the fastest connections to more countries at competitive prices, it's no wonder more businesses used AT&T last year than all other international long-distance companies combined.
If you're talking about it, it's on. Donahue.
The first time they found out we were dating was the day I proposed to her.
I think the key word is being discreet.
There are people that date at the office and then they break up and it's horrible.
If you find someone you love, you shouldn't care what other people think.
I was an exception for Alice because she made a policy of not dating people at work.
You were the exception.
Yeah.
Is work the best place to fall in love? Next Donahue.
Be sure to watch Donahue, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
If there is one thing that's been a sure thing at the shore this summer, it's the trouble at the beach has not gone away. Action News reporter Dan Cuellar has the latest from Cape May County.
The signs posted along the beach this evening tell the story. No swimming or bathing due to high levels of fecal coliform bacteria. And once again, some swimmers who had been in the water earlier were taking their own sorts of precautions.
Took a shower, scrubbed my teeth. I was like, saw a bottle of Listerine.
In Wildwood, swimming is banned at these beaches: Skellinger, Montgomery, Baker, and Oak Avenues. In Wildwood Crest, officials have banned swimming at the Forget-Me-Not Road and Miami Road beaches. The ban was put in effect at 3 o'clock, but almost 3 hours later, there were still many people swimming in the affected areas, apparently oblivious to what was going on. This woman, whose child became ill after swimming in the water yesterday, says hospital staffers could not explain her child's illness, and she now suspects it had something to do with the bacteria.
My concern is maybe it wasn't jellyfish in the water. Maybe it's something in the water she had a toxic effect to. You know, I mean, we're down here for 2 weeks, and if she's not let us swim, I'd like to know what the cause is.
Health officials first suspected the problem on Monday, following test results then. When they conducted follow-up tests on Tuesday, results of which were not complete till today, the swimming bans were ordered. Some of the same areas were affected for the same problem only 2 weeks ago. Again, health officials cite storm runoff from recent heavy rains. The storm drains dump their runoff into the ocean in much the same manner as we see here. While swimming is banned, some merchants along the boardwalk were taking issue with city officials for referring to the restrictions as beach closings.
They say that the beaches are closed at such and such streets. That is not true. The beaches are open. You just cannot bathe at them streets.
It's unknown when the water may be safe to swim in. More samples were taken today, but the testing process takes 24 hours, and results will not be complete till tomorrow afternoon. I'm Dan Cuellar, Channel 6 Action News, Cape May County, New Jersey.
Well, it will happen in 48 minutes. Fares on Septa City Division will finally go up. For much of this day, commuters lined up at token windows to beat the fare hike delayed for 4 months by the courts. A last-ditch effort by consumer activist Max Weiner to thwart the increase was rejected by a Commonwealth Court judge who refused to reconsider the go-ahead. Weiner still plans to take his fight to state Supreme Court, but come tomorrow morning, the costs of tokens, passes, and transfers will increase. Only the $1.25 base fare will stay the same. A 12-year-old girl remains in the hospital tonight after a rampage today by a pit bulldog in southwest Philadelphia. The dog attacked 4 children and an adult this afternoon in the 1100 block of South 54th Street. 4 people were treated and released, but Natalie Lewis is hospitalized. She is in good condition with several bite wounds. The dog was shot to death by police and is being checked now for rabies. Police were questioning a 14-year-old boy who they say may have owned the animal. Tonight, Dave Roberts concludes his special report on near-death experiences, people who believe they have gone beyond and back. And as Dave tells us tonight, many of these people believe that their experiences are proof that there is life after death.
There is a perfect plan. The world is part of a perfect plan, and that it's all working itself out in its perfection.
Jane Smith had her near-death experience when she suffered a heart attack. But like a lot of people who live to tell about their near-death experience, she was fortunate enough to be in a hospital where doctors were able to save her life. She truly believes her spirit left her body and met with deceased loved ones. But Smith, like millions of others, is also convinced her near-death experience is proof positive of something far greater and mystical: life after death.
I am indestructible, immortal, that I go on forever, that there's no beginning and no end.
Virtually every near-death experiencer I've talked to is personally convinced that they are going to live after death, that they have experienced what it's going to be like after death.
I think if we listen to near-death experiencers, just listening to them, we know that not only is death not a horror, but it's a beginning.
Many of those who fought for their lives in an operating room such as this one and had a near-death experience actually believe that they have visited the other side. Some religious experts, however, disagree. Rabbi Richard Address says he doesn't deny the existence of near-death experiences, but he also says it doesn't prove that there is life after death.
Traditional Judaism, certainly in liberal Judaism, Reform Judaism,
does not accept life after death as one of its tenets.
Father Joseph Kekalik also acknowledges that those who report near-death experiences may actually have experienced them, but he's cautious about whether or not it indicates life after death.
It doesn't really prove it. It sort of is a pointer towards
it
more than anything else.
Those who claim to have had near-death experiences want others to understand what they've seen. Having been so close to death and getting a second chance seems like a modern miracle. Ultimately, they're not concerned with whether or not religious experts or anyone else really believes them. That's because they are truly convinced they've been beyond and back.
It's something that's beyond the senses. It's very, very full. It's penetrating. I mean, you know it's real.
Dave Roberts, Channel 6 Action News.
Hello, I'm Wally Kennedy. Next, Mayor Wilson Good is our live guest. Imagine Philadelphia without the Sixers at the Spectrum. Could it happen? What price will a city already strapped for cash pay to make Harold Katz happy? Mayor Good answers those and other questions at 10.
And I'm Elizabeth Starr. Former Beatle Ringo Starr, seen here in that classic film Caveman, brings his all-star band to the Delaware Valley twice within the next week. We'll give you all the details plus all the other entertainment news on the next AM Philadelphia at 10 in the morning.
I said, no, that man is not going to abuse my mother anymore.
On the next Sally Jesse Raphael, should you take an eye for an eye?
I said, it's either my life or his, and I love life too damn much. And I shot him.
Or just get even?
You don't have to go out and commit a crime to get revenge.
You got revenge by seducing a man, telling everybody.
Getting revenge on the next Sally.
Watch Sally Jesse Raphael, 10:30 a.m. tomorrow.
This rebroadcast of tonight's 11 o'clock news is presented by Channel 6 as a public service to our late-night viewers.
No mercy tonight, exhibited by the Phillies at Veteran Stadium. Here's Don Tollefson.
This was one of those picture-perfect efforts, Jim. Once again tonight, the Phils gave some flashes of the potential that has more than a few folks excited about the long-range rebuilding effort. Ken Howell would not need much offensive support tonight. He got more than enough in the third as Dickie Thahn's homer made it 1-0 right there. And this would be a shutout night, as Jim mentioned earlier. Before Scott Sanderson was out of that inning, Lenny Dykstra had doubled the advantage, 2-0 Phillies. After those solo homers in the third, Phils got 2 runs on 1 hit in the fourth. This was a Charlie Hayes double, as Jerome Walton, as you could see, really misplayed it. Before the fourth was over, Dickie Thahn back at the plate, a 2-run homer, his second of the night, 6-0. The Cubs saw their pursuit of first place sidetracked, so they went to the sunflower seeds. Kenny Howell ended up with his first major league shutout.
I had good stuff. I felt like I wasn't overthrowing during the game, and I just felt that I was throwing a lot of sliders, and I was throwing them for strikes, and then when I didn't have to, I'd throw them in the dirt. I had guys fishing, and you know, that's the kind of pitcher I am, and I'm a power pitcher, and I'm really shocked I went the distance, but you know, maybe if I can change speeds and mix my pitches up like I did tonight, then I should be able to go those kind of stints.
They scattered 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, only 1 walk. On the scoreboard, the Reds win, the first place Expos win, San Diego wins, Frank Viola and the Mets losing 2-1 to St. Louis in the 8th. How about the American League scoreboard? Baltimore trying to salvage a game up in Boston. Minnesota has lost the first of 2. They're tied in the second at Yankee Stadium, in Toronto over Mark Gubicza and the Royals tonight. Well, as the Eagles get ready for Sunday's game with the Browns in London, they find themselves in a unique situation. They are practicing for a preseason opener, but unlike the case if they were in training camp here, they have no curfew, and they are in one of the world's legendary locales.
After a rough and tumble day, the Birds certainly need a break. And one look at David Riddle, and you know something is going to be up tonight. Outside the hotel, everybody is set. It's a fun time in the city of London, especially when the tight end Keith Jackson loosens up and does his impression of Robin Leach.
We're here with Randall Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham, how does it feel to be a multi-millionaire?
It feels pretty good.
Well, he's short on words, but he's big on heart. He's a little guy with a lot of money. He's like Donald Trump Cunningham.
Yeah. Those are the veteran players, while a real thrill is for 4 rookies. From left to right, Al Namella, Bill Hess, Anthony Edwards, and Greg Zakharoff.
I'm way away from home, but I tell you what, we're going to enjoy ourselves, and then we're going to have a good game on Sunday. That's it. That's the main point here. We're going to have a good game on Sunday.
Off they go, while Randall Cunningham sticks around for some window shopping. Despite all that he sees right here, something simple will do.
A nice American-made truck would do.
And off they go. Lug out London. Gary Papa, Channel 6 Action News with the Eagles in London, England.
The same taxi they used in the vintage movie, The Thin Man.
Is that right?
Years ago.
I believe you.
It is.
I believe you. Remember who was on the television series?
Myrna Loy.
No, on the television series.
Oh, no.
Peter Lawford.
Ooh, yeah.
That's right. Coming up on Action News, Dave Roberts. Why are we doing that? I don't know. Coming up, Dave Roberts and the AccuWeather forecast when we continue in just a moment.
They ended up in mental hospitals because their co-workers played endless, vicious pranks on them. On the next Oprah Winfrey Show, meet people who say their co-workers got thrills by scaring and terrorizing them every day until they just cracked. Victims of office terror and jokes that went way too far. On the next Oprah Winfrey Show.
Watch the Oprah Winfrey Show tomorrow at 4.
Discover why Philadelphia's gone Hollywood in the ABC hit 30-something. Then 30-something's Melanie Mayron comes home to Philadelphia to visit her alma mater and to promote a film that she produced and stars in.
I'm one of the producers, so I sent my star to Philadelphia.
I'm Gary Papa with True Grit and a city that's a hit on primetime Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
Here's Dave Roberts and the AccuWeather forecast. David?
Still comfortable out there tonight. Enjoy it as long as you can because things are definitely going to change. The Muggies are on their way back. This high-pressure system now moving toward the Carolinas remains off the coast come tomorrow, sets up the heat pump high, Bermuda high. Heat and humidity come back. Another hazy day similar to what we had today. Still a little shower activity out there. Portions of northern Montgomery and Bucks County picking up a little spritz or two. During the next hour, you may see a little bit of that. Some thunderstorm activity up through New England, the heavier stuff down south. That's going to be our weather maker for the next 3 or 4 days as it anchors in position, and we have a hot couple of days and a weekend coming up, too. What's left of Chantal continues to produce lots of rain throughout sections of Oklahoma and Texas. Yeah, this system here is kind of falling apart, but it's going to end up in Missouri sometime tomorrow, and then could affect us over the weekend. We may get a little precipitation out. There's another hurricane out there tonight, in case you haven't heard about it, Hurricane Dean, located about 400 miles east of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and about 1,300 miles east, if you will, of Miami. Top winds are now up to 80 miles per hour. A system we have to watch very, very carefully. So the watch is on for the second hurricane in the Atlantic season. 101 up there in Bismarck, North Dakota. That frontal system coming through, setting off some thunderstorm activity, could produce a little precipitation for us. 111 in Death Valley, 27 in Truckee, California, the cold spot in the country. Here is the call from AccuWeather. It's back. It's referring to heat and humidity. 65 degrees, that was our low. 83 was the high, came at 8:30 this afternoon. The 11 o'clock numbers, present temperature reading 73, humidity up to 76%, a steady barometer 29.96, southwesterly winds 9 miles per hour. The water temperature is 73. In the northeast, 72, 73 outside the station, 75 for Center City, 7.3 at the airport, and 7.4 for Camden. The exclusive AccuWeather 5-day forecast, few clouds. We'll post a little spread, 65, 70. Hazy sunshine when we start out at 70 degrees in the morning, then hot and humid for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We go from 90 through 94 to 92 degrees. Sunday, it backs off to just plain old warm and humid, 88 degrees, 86, with hopes of possibly less humid weather on Monday. It's just about over. We're back into some August heat, Jim.
All right, David. Finally tonight, Don Polec puts his best face forward with a little help from Hollywood.
They are the makers of magic who turn unreality into reality, working as they do as makeup artists for Universal Studios, and they were in town today at a special luncheon in Center City heralding the company's new facilities in Orlando, Florida, the largest motion picture studios outside of Hollywood. But when they offered to do a complete professional motion picture makeover on my face, how could I pass it up? After all, everybody knows that it's the makeup artists who make Robert Redford and Tom Cruise look so good up there on the silver screen. Of course, when it came to what my face was best suited for, in keeping with current movie trends, they had something else in mind.
The movies that are out right now, you know, Freddy Part 5 and Jason Part 8, just a continuing thing. This is an acid burn. This would be like somebody's had a thing of acid thrown in their face. And it's gonna, when we're all done and painted, it'll be real gruesome. This is just foam rubber piece. We're just doing a little part of your face. Some makeups might be 10 or 12 pieces that, you know, all the way from head to shoulder. And that would take, you know, 4 or 5 hours to do something like that. You know, the audiences are very sophisticated nowadays. I mean, you know, in the 50s they used to get away with somebody in a giant rubber suit, you know, that was made out of a trash bag and, you know, oatmeal. But nowadays, it has to, you know, it has to look real or they won't buy it.
And just one of many different aspects of movie making whose demonstrations will enable visitors in the new Universal Florida Studios, scheduled to open early next year, to experience firsthand the mystique of motion pictures. One that always proves captivating and that even in a behind-the-scenes setting can serve as an all-encompassing experience that you can really lose yourself in, relying on the talents of hundreds of individual craftsmen working together to help the on-screen performer put his best face forward in a way that never fails to move his audience. I'm Don Polec. Man, I gotta remember to change my razor blade more often. Channel 6 Action News.
Nightline next on Channel 6. Action News continues at 6 a.m. with Monica Malpass, and at noon with Chris Wagner, Robin Garrison, and Harry Martin. Now for Don Tollefson, Dave Roberts, the entire Action News team, I'm Jim Gardner. Have a good night tonight.
The preceding has been a rebroadcast of tonight's 11 o'clock news, presented as a public service by Channel 6 to our late-night viewers.